We need to see your marks, all of them. Now, 11 words. 23 Japanese women freeze. August 16, 1945. Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. Japan surrendered yesterday, but these women just became prisoners. The American medical officer stands in the doorway, clipboard in hand, waiting. The Texas heat crawls through the whitewashed barracks like something alive. 102 degrees at 6 in the morning. By noon, it will be unbearable. But the temperature is not what makes these women sweat. Captain Robert Sullivan from Grand Island, Nebraska, stands beside a wooden examination table. He is 30 years old. Wedding ring on his left hand catches the early sunlight streaming through the window. Tired eyes. 3 days without proper sleep. Behind him, an American flag hangs limp in the still air. His medical school diploma from the University of Nebraska sits on the wall in a simple frame. Next to it, a photograph. A young woman standing in a cornfield, blonde hair pulled back, one hand resting on her swollen belly. Mary, his wife, pregnant, due in November. He does not look like a monster. That might make it worse. Keiko Yamamoto backs against the bamboo wall, 24 years old. Radio operator, Imperial Japanese Army, from Osaka, joined in 1943 when the war still seemed winnable. Around her, 22 other women press themselves flat against the rough wood. They know what comes next. The propaganda had been specific, detailed, terrifying. Karada wo miseru, show our bodies, shinu hogamashi, death would be better. What victorious armies do to female prisoners has been the same throughout history. What Americans do, according to Tokyo radio broadcasts, is particularly savage. The women have heard the stories for years. Now they are about to live them. The humidity is different here than in the Philippines. Dry heat, sharp. The kind that pulls moisture from your throat and leaves your lips cracked within hours. The desert sage smell drifts through the open windows. Creosote bushes, dust, disinfectant, and underneath it all, the sharp scent of fear. 23 women who have not bathed properly in 3 days, who spent 48 hours on a military transport ship, who were pulled from a supply depot in Manila by drunk American MPs celebrating victory. 3 nights ago, August 13th, the war was over, Japan had surrendered. Time to collect what victors always collect from the defeated. Staff Sergeant Jack Morrison from Mobile, Alabama, found them hiding behind crates of radio equipment. Big man, football star before the war. Alabama State University class of 1938. His class ring, gold with a red stone, sits heavy on his right hand. It leaves distinctive marks when he grabs someone by the throat. Keiko knows this because she has those marks. Sullivan spreads photographs across the wooden table. Not surgical tools, not restraints. Photographs. Black and white, 8 by 10. Professional medical documentation. The metal table legs scrape against the floor. The sound makes everyone flinch. These women have learned what metallic sounds mean. Bombs, bullets, batons, the sharp ring of violence. But the captain is not reaching for weapons. He is reaching for evidence. Sergeant Daniel Tanaka stands beside him, 26 years old. Nisei, American-born Japanese face, from Fresno, California. His family is in Manzanar internment camp right now. Barbed wire and guard towers and loyalty questionnaires. He wears the uniform of the country that imprisoned his parents. He speaks the language of the country that started the war. He exists between two worlds, translating more than words. Translating fear, translating hope, translating the impossible possibility that enemies might see each other as human. The electric fan overhead churns the thick air. Its blades tick with each rotation. A rhythmic sound, like a clock counting down, like a heartbeat in an empty room. Nobody has fixed it. Nobody has time. The whole camp is still adjusting to housing female prisoners. 200 Japanese women in American custody across the entire Pacific theater. 23 of them here. The rest scattered across facilities in Hawaii, California, the Philippines. 78% have untreated injuries. Burns, shrapnel wounds, infections that could kill them within days if left alone. Broken bones that healed wrong. Malnutrition, exhaustion. The accumulated damage of years of war compressed into bodies too young to carry such weight. Sullivan picks up one photograph, shows it to Tanaka. The sergeant's face changes. His eyes widen. His jaw tightens. He translates something that makes no sense to the women listening. These are pictures of Allied prisoners, tortured. The silence that follows is not peaceful. It is the silence of held breath, of muscles tensed for flight, of minds trying to process information that does not fit expectations. The doctor needs to match patterns. Tanaka continues. His voice shakes slightly. His Japanese is perfect Fresno accent smoothed away by years of study. These photographs show American soldiers, British soldiers, Australians, Dutch, all with identical scar patterns, parallel lines from bamboo beatings, circular burns from cigarettes, specific cuts from ritual punishments. The doctor spreads 20 photographs on the table, all showing torture marks. Sullivan points to one image, a British soldier's back, 5 parallel scars exactly 2 inches apart. He speaks slowly, letting Tanaka keep pace. These patterns are evidence. War crimes trials start next month in Tokyo. General MacArthur himself is overseeing the proceedings. We need documentation, photographs, testimony. We need to match injuries to perpetrators, camps to commanders, orders to outcomes. Gayata koto no shoko wo sagashitao. They are looking for evidence of what we did. Sachiko Nakamura steps forward, 31 years old, the oldest in the group, the one the others look to when fear becomes too heavy to carry alone. She has scars, old ones from 1937, new ones from last week. But most are not from combat. They are from her own officers. The kind of marks that appear when you refuse certain orders, when you try to run, when you survive what should have killed you and become an example instead. Her voice barely carries across the thick air. Why the fan blade catches, stops, starts again with a grinding sound that sets teeth on edge. Nobody moves to fix it. Everyone is frozen watching something impossible unfold. An American officer explaining that he needs evidence of Japanese crimes, that these women, these enemy prisoners, these defeated soldiers of an empire that killed millions need to be examined, documented. Their injuries recorded with the same professional care given to Allied prisoners. Sullivan arranges the photographs in rows. The clipboard clangs against the metal table leg. 3,500 Allied prisoners of war with documented torture cases. 47 camps across the Pacific. Hundreds of witness testimonies. They need to match injuries to specific units, to specific commanders, to specific techniques that can be traced back to orders given in Tokyo. The paper rustles as he flips through more photos. Sweat drips from his forehead onto one image, blurring the bruises on a Dutch prisoner's ribs. He wipes it quickly, apologetically, like the photograph itself deserves respect. Like these images of suffering are sacred objects that must be handled with care. Keiko shifts her weight. The movement makes her wince. Her ribs hurt. 3 days ago during capture, an American MP grabbed her hard enough to leave marks. But those marks match none of these photographs. Those marks tell a different story, a story that is not supposed to exist, a story about what happens when victory celebrations involve captured sake and women found hiding in supply depots. Tanaka is sweating more than the heat justifies. He knows something these women do not. Something about why Sullivan is really here. Something about what American documentation means. The Americans are not just recording Japanese cruelty. They are building cases, big ones, the kind that end with nooses, the kind that hang generals and execute camp commanders, the kind that reshape how the world remembers this war. Sullivan pulls out a camera, German-made, probably captured equipment. The Nazis made excellent cameras. Precision engineering. The lens cap clicks as he removes it. We need to photograph and document every scar, every injury, old and new, combat wounds and torture marks. Everything goes on record for the trials. The examination begins. One by one, Sullivan documents injuries. Combat wounds, old scars, fresh bruises, each woman's story written on skin, each mark cataloged with professional precision. The shutter clicks, flash powder burns, notebooks fill with medical terminology that will someday be read in Tokyo courtrooms. Hanasato is next, 17 years old, the youngest in the group, Joined the military to escape an arranged marriage to a man 3 times her age. Thought the war would be an adventure. Thought she would see the world. Instead, she saw Manila burn, saw her friends die, saw the propaganda collapse into ash and defeat. She has cigarette burns on her ankles, not from combat, not from American soldiers, from her own sergeant, Japanese Imperial Army, for refusing his advances, for saying no when saying no was not permitted. Sullivan's face tightens when he sees them. 12 circular burns, perfectly spaced, systematic, the work of someone who took their time, who enjoyed it, who used punishment as entertainment. He photographs each one, documents the pattern, makes notes that will someday be read in a courtroom in Tokyo. Evidence of internal discipline failure. Evidence of abuses within the Japanese military structure itself. Evidence that the cruelty was not just directed outward at enemies, but inward at their own. The examination continues. One woman at a time, each injury documented, each story recorded, combat wounds, accident trauma, punishment scars, the accumulated violence of years of war written on flesh that is too young to carry such history. Then it is Keiko's turn. She hesitates, pulls her collar higher, but the movement reveals the edge of something purple on her neck. Dark, fresh, 3 days old. Sullivan stops. May I see that Keiko shakes her head. Sachiko puts a hand on her shoulder. Daijubu, it is okay. He is documenting everything. Your marks too, whatever they are, wherever they came from. On the record. Official. Protected by paper and photographs in the strange American obsession with documentation. Reluctantly, Keiko lowers her collar. The bruising is immediate, obvious, unmistakable. Purple tissue damage wrapping around her throat from front to back. 5 finger marks, clear individual impressions where someone gripped hard enough to cut off air, to control, to dominate. And on the right side, a circular impression. 1 inch in diameter, deep tissue bruising, the kind that comes from pressure, from weight, from something metal pressed into soft skin with force. Sullivan's face changes instantly. In 3 years of war, he has seen thousands of injury patterns, battlefield trauma, torture marks, accident wounds, burns, breaks, the infinite ways human bodies can be damaged. He knows combat injuries. He knows torture techniques. He knows what happens when bombs fall and bullets fly and buildings collapse. These are none of those things. These are restraint bruises, control marks. Someone grabbed this woman by the throat. Someone with large hands. Someone right-handed based on the grip pattern. Someone wearing a ring on their right hand. A distinctive ring, 1 inch diameter, probably a class ring. The kind American universities give to graduating seniors. Alabama State University class of 1938. Sullivan has seen this exact pattern before. Twice. A Filipino woman in Manila 2 weeks ago before they shipped out to Texas. A Chinese refugee found near the docks. Same ring, same placement, same right-handed grip pattern, same deep tissue damage suggesting prolonged pressure. His hand shakes slightly as he adjusts his clipboard. Sergeant asks her who did this. Tanaka translates. His voice is careful, neutral, but his eyes show understanding, show the terrible recognition of what this means. Keiko's whisper is barely audible. America Jinmo Onajida. Americans are the same. Tanaka stops translating mid-sentence. The words hang in the air untranslated, but their meaning is clear in the sudden tension. In the way Sullivan's jaw tightens. In the way the other women lean forward, understanding even without language that something has shifted. That the examination is no longer just about Japanese crimes. What did she say? Sullivan's voice is tight, controlled. The voice of a man who already knows the answer but needs to hear it spoken aloud. Needs it on record. Tanaka hesitates. Translating this is dangerous. Translating this is crossing a line. Translating this means choosing between the country that imprisoned his family and the justice that should apply to everyone, even enemies, even in war. She said, Americans are the same. The silence that follows is absolute. 23 women, 1 American doctor, 1 Japanese American interpreter. Everyone understanding that something has broken open. that the examination has revealed more than Japanese war crimes, that there are marks in this room that tell a story nobody wants to hear. Sullivan leans forward. His voice is gentle but firm. Did an American soldier do this to you 3 nights ago? Keiko's English is broken but clear. Radio duty taught her the basics. Numbers, names, military vocabulary. The language of war is simpler than the language of peace. Philippines. Americans celebrate. Japan surrender. They drink. They find us. Supply depot. Hiding. She pauses. Breathes. Continues. Big man. Southern voice. Class ring. Right hand. Morrison. Name Morrison. I hear other soldiers say, Staff Sergeant Morrison. The last word comes out as a whisper, as an accusation, as a truth that should not exist but does. Sullivan's hands shake as he picks up the camera. In his medical kit beside the bandages and iodine and morphine, there is a second notebook. Not standard military issue, red leather cover, personal, private. Inside are 4 other incident reports, 4 other cases, 4 other women who showed marks that did not come from enemy action, all filed through proper channels, all ignored, all dismissed with the same reasoning. Fog of war, heat of victory, impossible to prove. Enemy testimony is unreliable. They are just trying to make us look bad. They are lying. They are the enemy. Why should we believe them? But bruises shaped like class rings are hard to explain away, especially when the pattern repeats, especially when the ring is distinctive, especially when the same name appears in multiple reports across multiple incidents, across multiple locations. Sullivan opens his red notebook, shows Tanaka the previous entries. Manila, July 28th. Filipino woman, age unknown, similar throat bruising. Manila, August 9th. Chinese refugee, similar pattern. And now this, August 13th, Keiko Yamamoto, Japanese prisoner of war. Same ring, same grip, same man. He has been documenting this for 6 months, building a case against his own soldiers, against men who wear the same uniform, who fought the same war, who bled on the same beaches, but who forgot somewhere along the way that the uniform is supposed to mean something, that American soldiers are supposed to be better, that victory is not licensed for cruelty. Captain, if you are thinking what I think you are thinking, Tanaka begins. His voice is low. Careful, this is dangerous territory. This is accusing American heroes of crimes against enemy prisoners. This is career suicide. This is the kind of thing that gets officers transferred to remote bases and forgotten. Sullivan cuts him off. 6 months, Sergeant. 6 months I have been filing reports. 6 months nobody has listened. Because these are enemy women, foreign women. Not American citizens, not our responsibility beyond basic Geneva Convention requirements. But crimes are crimes. And if we become the same as those we defeated, then what did we fight for? What did all those men die for on those beaches? He turns to Keiko. Through Tanaka, he asks questions, specific questions, the kind that build legal cases, exact time and location. How many men were involved? 3. Morrison Banks Chen. What they said, what they did, how long it lasted, whether she reported it, to whom, with what result. Nothing. No result. Who would believe an enemy prisoner accusing American heroes? Sullivan photographs the bruising from multiple angles. Front view, side view, close up on the ring impression. Each shutter click is evidence. Each flash is documentation. Each image is a piece of truth that cannot be denied or dismissed or forgotten. 2 other women step forward. They were there too. Same night, same men, same marks. Sullivan photographs them all. 3 throats, 3 sets of bruises, 3 identical ring patterns. The evidence is systematic, undeniable, damning. He closes his camera, closes his red notebook, looks at 23 women who came here expecting torture and found something more complicated. Found documentation. Found an American officer who is willing to turn his camera on his own soldiers. Found impossibly the beginning of justice. I need to call Colonel Hayes. Tanaka nods. The women watch, understanding without understanding, knowing without knowing exactly what comes next. Sullivan walks to the wall phone, picks up the receiver, dials 4 numbers. Internal line. Across the base to the commander's office. The phone rings 3 times. A voice answers. Colonel Hayes, this is Captain Sullivan at the medical barracks. I need you here immediately, sir. We have a situation. He hangs up, turns back to the women, to the photographs spread across the table, to the evidence of crimes committed by both sides, to the impossible task of documenting truth in wartime when truth has too many faces. The fan overhead continues its broken rhythm. The Texas heat continues to build. Outside Fort Bliss wakes to another day of occupation duty, of processing prisoners, of winding down a war that killed millions and left scars that will take generations to heal. Inside this barracks, 23 women wait to see if American justice is real or just another kind of propaganda. 12 minutes until Colonel Hayes arrives. 12 minutes until everything changes. Colonel William Hayes sits at his desk at 0600 hours staring at 3 photographs. Sarah 19, Martha 16, Beth 13, his daughters, back in Columbus, Ohio. The house on Maple Street with the white picket fence and the oak tree in the front yard. The tree he planted when Sarah was born. The same tree that now shades the porch where his wife Helen drinks coffee every morning and waits for letters that come too infrequently. The photographs are arranged in a neat row. Behind them, an Ohio State pennant hangs on the wall, scarlet and gray. His brother wore the class ring, graduated 1935. Played football, defensive end, good man, died at Normandy, never made it past the beach. On the corner of his desk sits a baseball, signed by Joe DiMaggio, Yankees center fielder. 56-game hitting streak in 1941. Hayes saw 3 of those games when he was stationed at Fort Dix before shipping out. The Yankee Clipper, grace in motion, the kind of athlete who made the game look easy when it was anything but. His coffee is half finished, black, no sugar, mess hall brew that could strip paint. But it is hot and it is American, and it keeps him awake through nights when sleep feels like surrender. The phone rings, internal line, 4 sharp bursts. Hayes picks it up on the second ring. Colonel Hayes. Sullivan's voice comes through tight, controlled, the voice of a man barely holding something together. Sir, I need you at the medical barracks, immediately. Hayes has known Bob Sullivan for 8 months. Since the Nebraska farm boy arrived at Fort Bliss with his medical degree, and his quiet competence, and an unshakable belief that documentation matters, that truth matters, that the rules apply even in wartime, especially in wartime, most of all in wartime, when it would be easiest to forget them. Sullivan does not rattle easily. This voice means something serious. What is the situation? Captain Sullivan pauses, just long enough for Hayes to know that whatever comes next will be complicated. Sir, it involves the Japanese prisoners and some of our men. I need you to see this in person. Hayes is already standing, already reaching for his cap. On my way. The Jeep ride across Fort Bliss takes 8 minutes. The base is waking up. Soldiers doing morning PT. The sun rising over the Franklin Mountains to the east, turning the desert sky from purple to pink to orange. Beautiful country Texas. Harsh, but honest. The kind of landscape that does not lie about what it is. No shade where there should be trees. No water where you expect streams, just rock and sand and sky and the truth of survival. Hayes parks outside the medical barracks, walks up 3 wooden steps, opens the door without knocking. The scene inside stops him cold. 23 Japanese women backed against the far wall. Sullivan standing beside an examination table covered in photographs. Sergeant Tanaka looking like a man caught between 2 worlds. And breakfast? A tray of breakfast, sitting untouched on the corner table. Bacon, eggs, cornbread, coffee. The smell of it fills the room, mixing with the sharper sense of disinfectant and fear. Sullivan turns. His face is drawn, exhausted, but his eyes are clear, focused. Sir, thank you for coming. We have a situation that requires your immediate attention. Hayes looks at the photographs spread across the examination table, recognizes them immediately. Allied prisoners of war, torture documentation, standard evidence collection for the Tokyo trials. Then he sees other photographs, fresh ones, still wet from development, close-ups of bruising, throat injuries, the kind of marks that tell stories no commanding officer wants to hear. Sullivan walks him through it, quietly, professionally, the voice of a doctor presenting case evidence, the examination request, the Tokyo trials documentation, The discovery of injuries that did not come from Japanese soldiers. 3 women, same night, same perpetrator, same distinctive injury pattern. He hands Hayes a photograph. Keiko's throat. The bruising is clear, but it is the circular mark that catches Hayes' attention. 1-inch diameter, deep tissue damage. The unmistakable impression of a ring pressed into skin with force. His brother's ring was the same size. Ohio State class of 1935. Hayes knows exactly what class rings look like, knows exactly what marks they leave, who his voice is flat, already knowing, already dreading. Sullivan opens his red leather notebook, shows Hayes 4 previous incident reports, all filed, all ignored, then shows him the new documentation. 3 more victims, same pattern, same ring, Staff Sergeant Jack Morrison, Alabama State class of 1938. Hayes feels something cold settle in his stomach. Morrison is popular, football star, 2 Bronze Stars. His unit loves him. Half the base thinks he walks on water. The other half thinks he is going places after the war. Politics maybe, business. The kind of man who lands on his feet. The kind of man who thinks victory means permission. Who thinks enemy women are spoils. Who thinks his ring and his rank and his war record make him untouchable. Hayes looks at his daughter's photographs in his mind. Sarah, 19, the same age as some of these women, if positions were reversed, if Sarah was a prisoner in Japan, if Japanese soldiers did to her what Morrison did to these women. Would he want justice? Or would he accept that this is just what happens in war, that victors take what they want and the defeated endure what they must? The answer is immediate, absolute, clear. He would burn down the world for justice. So why should these women get less? Because they wore different uniforms, because they were born in the wrong country, because their emperor started the war that his daughter's country finished enemy. Or not, Hayes says slowly. They are under my protection now. His fist hits the desk. Papers scatter. Some of the photographs slide to the floor. Allied prisoners tortured by Japanese soldiers. Japanese prisoners assaulted by American soldiers. The images mix on the wooden planks. The irony is sharp enough to draw blood. Get Morrison, Hayes says. His voice is hard. Command voice. The voice that does not expect questions or hesitation. Get Banks, get Chen, get their entire unit. Bring them to the parade ground. Now, Sullivan nods. Sergeant Tanaka translates for the women who watch this exchange with expressions that shift from fear to confusion to something that might be hope. But Hayes is not done. He walks to the breakfast tray, picks up a strip of bacon. It is cold now, congealed. But it is food, and these women are prisoners, and in America, prisoners eat. Sergeant Tanaka tell the ladies that breakfast is getting cold. We do not waste food. Not in wartime. Not ever. My father grew up in the Depression. He taught me that wasting food is a sin. Confusion ripples through the women. This colonel, this commander, this man who just ordered arrests of his own soldiers is now concerned about cold bacon. Hayes picks up the bacon, eats it. The grease is thick on his tongue. Hickory smoked, Texas style, the kind his wife makes on Sunday mornings back in Ohio. Crispy, salty, perfect. See, not poisoned. Best bacon you will find this side of the Mississippi. Texas knows how to cure meat. He picks up another strip, offers it to the oldest woman, the one standing slightly in front of the others. Protective, maternal. Ma'am, when is the last time you had a hot meal? Sachiko Nakamura stares at the bacon, at this American colonel, at this impossible moment. Through Tanaka, she answers, 2 days, then eat. That is an order I am happy to give. She takes the bacon. Her hands shake slightly. 3 days ago, she was in Manila. 3 days ago, she was hiding in a supply depot, wondering if surrender meant death. 3 days ago, she believed everything Tokyo radio said about American soldiers, about their cruelty, their barbarism, their treatment of prisoners. Nobody mentioned bacon. She bites. The exterior cracks with an audible snap. Salt and smoke flood her mouth. Fat melts on her tongue. The flavor is overwhelming. Rich, savory, maple-cured probably. The sweetness cuts the salt. The smoke taste lingers. Hickory wood, American breakfast smell. The kind that means home to people who have homes, who have kitchens, who have Sunday mornings in peace. Her eyes well up. Not from fear, not from pain, from the simple, overwhelming dignity of being fed by an enemy who sees her as human, who sees hunger and responds with food, who sees need and responds with care. The other women watch. Hannah steps forward. 17, the youngest. She takes a piece of cornbread. Yellow, crumbly, still slightly warm in the center, baked by someone who cared enough to make it right. She bites, tastes as butter, honey, the texture of home even though home is an ocean away. Then Keiko, 24, radio operator, the woman with Morrison's ring pattern bruised into her throat. She takes scrambled eggs, fork in hand. The eggs are fluffy, cooked properly, seasoned with salt and pepper and maybe a touch of cream. American eggs, American chickens, American mornings. One by one the women eat. For 5 minutes there is no talk of war crimes or documentation or justice. There is only eating. Only the basic human act of consuming food, of being hungry and being fed, of being prisoners and being treated with dignity anyway. Hayes watches. Sullivan watches. Tanaka translates the silence which needs no words. My father taught me on the farm, Hayes says quietly to Sullivan. Feed them first, then handle business, hospitality before everything else. That is how we did things in Ohio. That is how Americans should do things everywhere. Sullivan nods, thinks of his own father, Nebraska corn farmer, same philosophy. You feed the hungry, you shelter the cold, you help those who need help, not because they deserve it, not because they earned it, but because you are capable of helping and they need help, and that is enough. After the women have eaten, after the bacon is gone, and the eggs are finished, and the cornbread is reduced to crumbs, Hayes returns to business. He examines Keiko's throat, bruising himself. Not a doctor, but a father. A man who has 3 daughters and knows what finger marks on a woman's neck mean. Knows what that circular impression means. Has seen his brother's class ring enough times to recognize the signature. Sullivan shows him the red notebook. 4 previous incidents, all Morrison, all ignored through proper channels, all dismissed as enemy propaganda or unreliable testimony or the fog of war. But 6 months of documentation is hard to ignore. 6 months of the same name, 6 months of the same ring pattern, 6 months of a Nebraska farm boy doctor trying to do the right thing and being stonewalled by a system that does not want to hear about American crimes against enemy prisoners. Hayes makes his decision. It takes approximately 3 seconds. The same amount of time it took him to decide to enlist in 1917. The same amount of time it took him to propose to Helen in 1922. The same amount of time it took him to volunteer for another war in 1941. Some decisions are easy because they are right. The order goes out. Runners sprint across Fort Bliss. Sergeants shout. Boots scramble on gravel and sand. Within minutes, the entire base knows. Something big. Something involving the colonel. Something about Morrison's unit. The parade ground at 1000 hours, 104 degrees. The flag snaps in the hot wind. 12 military policemen stand in formation. Parade rest, sweating in full uniform, confused, angry, worried. They were pulled from breakfast, from morning duties, from the regular rhythm of occupation life. Morrison stands third from the left, smirking, confident. This is theater. The colonel cannot be serious, cannot actually be doing what the rumors say, cannot actually be putting American soldiers on display for enemy prisoners. But Hayes is serious. 23 Japanese women are lined up opposite the MPs, 20 feet of Texas tarmac between them. Heat shimmer makes the distance waver, makes the whole scene feel unreal, like a mirage, like something that cannot possibly be happening, but is. 200 soldiers watch from barracks windows, from doorways, from anywhere they can see. Word is spread. The old man is doing something crazy, something about the Japanese prisoners, something about Morrison. Hayes stands between the two groups, Sullivan beside him with camera ready, Tanaka ready to interpret, the entire base holding its breath. These women will now identify anyone who assaulted them 3 nights ago. Hayes's voice carries across the parade ground. Loud, clear, command voice. If you are identified by 2 or more witnesses, you will be placed under arrest pending court-martial. This is not negotiable. This is not optional. This is American military justice. A ripple runs through the watching soldiers. This is actually happening. Japanese women identifying Americans. Enemy prisoners accusing heroes. The world flipped upside down. Morrison's smirk falters. Just slightly. Just enough to show that he is starting to understand that maybe possibly the colonel is serious. Keiko steps forward first. Sullivan has coached her through Tanaka. Take your time. Look carefully. Only identify if you are certain. Point clearly. Speak loudly. She walks slowly along the line of MPs, looks at each face, some familiar from the base, some strangers, some too young, some too old. She reaches Morrison, stops, points. Him. Her voice does not shake. Her hand does not waver. The bruises on her throat are still purple against her skin, still visible to everyone watching. Morrison's face goes red. Ma'am, I have never seen this woman before in my life. Shut your mouth, Sergeant. Hayes's voice cuts like a whip. You will speak when spoken to and not before. Are you certain? Sullivan asks Keiko through Tanaka. She pulls down her collar, shows the bruising. Ring, Alabama, big man, him. She says it in English. Practiced, clear. So everyone watching can understand without translation. Fumiko steps forward. 22, radio operator, points at Morrison. Same man, same night. Reiko, 26, medical clerk, points at Morrison, then points at Corporal Banks standing 2 spots to Morrison's right. Both, him and him, 3 identifications, 3 witnesses, 3 sets of marks that match. Sullivan has photographed them all, documented everything. The evidence is systematic, professional, undeniable. Hayes turns to Morrison and Banks. His face is stone. No anger showing, no emotion at all. Just cold, absolute certainty. Staff Sergeant Morrison, Corporal Banks, step forward. They do not move, frozen in disbelief. This cannot be happening, cannot be real. That is an order. Step forward now. They step forward, 2 men, American heroes, bronze stars and purple hearts and battle ribbons, reduced to criminals by the testimony of enemy prisoners and the conscience of a colonel who has 3 daughters. You are hereby placed under arrest for assault on prisoners of war under American custody, violation of articles of war, conduct unbecoming, bringing dishonor to the United States Army. You will be held pending court-martial. Sir Morrison finds his voice. These are enemy combatants. They are lying. They are trying to make us look bad. You cannot possibly believe them over American soldiers. I can, and I do. Hayes steps closer. Close enough that only Morrison can hear what comes next. His voice is quiet, deadly. I have 3 daughters, Sergeant. 19, 16, 13. If anyone did to them what you did to these women, I would kill him myself. But we are a nation of laws. So instead, I will watch the law destroy you, legally, properly, with full documentation and photographic evidence and witness testimony that will follow you for the rest of your life. He steps back, raises his voice so the entire parade ground can hear. So every soldier watching from barracks windows can hear. So Fort Bliss can hear. So history can hear. Gentlemen, we did not fight this war to become savages. We did not die on beaches and in jungles so American soldiers could brutalize prisoners. These women are defeated enemies. They are also human beings under our protection. We are Americans. That means something, or it means nothing. Take them away. Military police march Morrison and Banks away in handcuffs, their own brothers in arms, their own unit, arresting them, walking them across the parade ground while hundreds watch, while Japanese prisoners watch, while the whole base witnesses American military justice turning on American soldiers. Some of the watching soldiers understand, nod. This is right. This is what we fought for. Principles, laws, justice even when it cost us. Others are angry, confused. These are just Japs, enemy prisoners. Why does the old man care? Why risk American careers for enemy testimony? But Hayes does not care about popularity, does not care about easy, cares about his daughters growing up in a world where American uniform means something, where justice applies equally, where power is checked by principle. The women are escorted back to the barracks. Sullivan continues examinations. still documenting, still photographing, still building cases for trials that will happen in Tokyo and in Fort Bliss military courts. Hayes orders expedited court-martial proceedings. Morrison will face justice swiftly. Military law in wartime allows for rapid prosecution when evidence is overwhelming. 48 hours to prepare. Trial set for August 18th. Sachiko's turn comes. Her scars are different, older, more extensive. The kind that tell stories spanning years, not days. Sullivan notices immediately. These are old injuries, some very old. Through Tanaka, Sachiko explains. Shanghai, 1937. Sullivan's hands stop. 1937 was before Pearl Harbor, before America entered the war. These scars are from her own people, from Japanese soldiers, from the comfort system that turned women into military equipment. May I examine them for documentation? Sachiko hesitates. This story has been silent for 8 years, hidden, buried, the kind of shame that follows you forever. But maybe silence is worse. Maybe shame belongs to perpetrators, not victims. Maybe documentation is how truth survives. She nods, begins unbuttoning her shirt. The room goes silent. The scars tell a story that predates this war, that predates Pearl Harbor and Midway and Manila. A story that begins in Shanghai in 1937 when Sachiko Nakamura was 23 years old and still believed the world made sense. Sullivan photographs each mark with the reverence of a historian, not the clinical detachment of a doctor. The shutter clicks 64 times. Each click is a moment of survival recorded. Each flash is proof that she lived when others did not. Cigarette burns, 12 of them, perfectly circular, systematically placed. The kind of precision that takes time, that requires someone to hold you still while someone else applies the burning end slowly, carefully enjoying the way skin blisters and blackens and screams. Whip marks, 17 parallel lines across her back, the kind that come from bamboo canes used by men who learned the technique from their fathers, who learned it from their fathers. Military discipline, traditional punishment, the same methods used on samurai who dishonored their lords now applied to women who tried to run. A brand on her left shoulder blade, not a number, a symbol. Ownership, property mark, the kind ranchers put on cattle, the kind slavers put on humans, the kind that says you belong to someone and running is theft. Knife cuts on her forearms, 8 thin scars, defense wounds that became punishment wounds. From 1940 in Manila when she refused an officer, when she said no, when she learned that no is not a word comfort women are permitted to speak. 3 marks on her right wrist, self-inflicted, 1942, suicide attempt. Failed because the razor was dull and the other women found her and bandaged the wounds and told her that surviving is the only revenge available to the powerless. Shrapnel scars on her right thigh. 1940, American bombing raid. The only wounds in this catalog that came from the enemy instead of her own people. The only scars she does not have to be ashamed of because they came from war, not from being a woman in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong face. Sullivan makes notes for each photograph, dates when she can remember them, locations, perpetrators when she knows their names. Colonel Yamamoto, Captain Sato, Lieutenant Ito, who liked to burn girls who cried, who said tears were disrespectful, who said comfort women should be grateful for the honor of serving imperial officers. Hayes enters halfway through the documentation, stands silent in the doorway, watches this American doctor photograph evidence of Japanese military crimes against Japanese women, watches this enemy prisoner testify about horrors that have nothing to do with Americans, except that Americans are the ones listening, the ones documenting, the ones who care enough to make it official. After an hour, Sullivan puts down the camera. His hands are shaking, not from fatigue, from fury, from the accumulated weight of bearing witness to the worst things humans do to each other when they have power and their victims have none. Captain Hayes says quietly, "This is the first comfort woman testimony officially documented by American forces." Yes, sir. This changes things. This is not just evidence for Tokyo trials. This is historical record. Sullivan nods. In Nebraska, we mark fence posts to track property lines. Documentation matters. Truth matters, even when the truth is terrible, especially when the truth is terrible. Because lies grow in silence and truth requires witnesses. Hayes turns to Sachiko. Through Tanaka, he speaks slowly, carefully. Ma'am, what was done to you is a war crime. Not against America, against humanity. Captain Sullivan has documented everything. Your testimony will be typed, filed, sent to MacArthur's headquarters, used in trials. Your voice matters. Sachiko's voice is steady. Why do you care? We were your enemies. We lost. Victors write history. Why give us voice? Hayes thinks of his daughters, of Sarah who wants to be a teacher, of Martha who wants to be a nurse, of Beth who wants to play baseball professionally even though girls do not play baseball, of raising women in a world where being a woman does not mean being prey. Because my daughters deserve a world where women are protected, even enemy women. Because if American uniform does not stand for something better, then what did we fight for? 3 other women come forward after Sachiko's testimony. Hana shows her cigarette burns, not from comfort stations, but from her own sergeant. 19 years old, Japanese Imperial Army. Punishment for refusing advances, for being young and female and powerless. Fumiko shares her sister's story. Taken to a comfort station in Korea in 1941. Never seen again, probably dead. Definitely gone. Another ghost among thousands. Reiko tells of working as a medical clerk, of seeing comfort women brought to field hospitals, wounds that should not exist, damage that speaks of systematic brutality, orders from above that she was powerless to disobey. By noon, Sullivan has filled 3 notebooks. Documented evidence that will someday force Japan to acknowledge what was done to its own women. That will take 46 years. That will require survivors like Sachiko to speak publicly. That will require American military documentation to make it undeniable. But that is decades away. Right now, there is a court-martial to prepare. August 18th, Fort Bliss JAG Chamber, 3-officer panel. Morrison sits at the defendant's table. Captain Whitmore, his defense attorney, looks uncomfortable. The evidence is overwhelming. Photographic, medical, 3 witness testimonies. Pattern of behavior. Prior incidents documented in Sullivan's red notebook. The defense is weak. Heat of victory. Celebration. He was drunk. These are enemy combatants. War makes men do things. The fog of battle extends to occupation. Surely the panel understands that standards are different when you have just defeated an empire that killed millions. The prosecution is devastating. Geneva Convention. Prisoners under American protection. 3 independent witnesses. Medical documentation. Ring pattern matched to Alabama State Class of 1938. Prior incidents showing pattern of behavior. Sullivan's red notebook showing 6 months of attempts to stop this through proper channels. The verdict takes 45 minutes. Guilty on all charges. 6 months hard labor at Leavenworth Federal Prison. Reduction in rank to private. Dishonorable discharge. Permanent criminal record. Lifetime registration as a violent offender. Morrison's face goes purple. This is bullshit. They are Japs. We won. We earned the right to celebrate however we want. Hayes stands. You are dismissed, Private Morrison. You dishonored the uniform. You dishonored your country. You dishonored every man who died believing America stands for something better. Guards take him away. The watching soldiers are divided. Some satisfied. This is right. This is what we fought for. Principles over popularity. Justice over tribalism. Others angry. Betrayal. The old man chose enemy prisoners over American heroes. Chose their word over our word. Chose them over us. But Hayes does not govern by popularity. Governs by principle. By the world he wants his daughters to inherit. By the America he believes in, even when belief is costly. The days that follow bring transformation. Not instant, not dramatic, but real. Day 3 after the court-martial. Evening. The temperature drops to 95 degrees, almost comfortable by Texas standards. Hayes invites the Japanese prisoners to watch a baseball game. Americans versus themselves. Soldiers playing for recreation. For the love of the game. For something that is not war. The women sit in makeshift bleachers, wooden planks, splinters. But the view is clear. The field is diamond-shaped. Bases 90 feet apart. Pitcher's mound 60.5 feet from home plate. geometric perfection. American precision applied to sport. Tanaka explains the rules. 3 strikes, 4 balls, 9 innings. Trying to condense a game that takes years to truly understand into simple terms for women who have never seen a baseball. But the rules are not what matters. What matters is the sound. The crack of bat on ball, sharp, clean, the most American sound there is besides maybe a V8 engine or a barn door sliding open or bacon frying on a Sunday morning. The crack that means connection, means the ball is flying, means something good just happened. Popcorn smell drifts from the makeshift concession stand. Corn kernels heated until they explode into white puffs. Salted, buttered, another American invention. Another small miracle of turning simple ingredients into something that means home. Hayes brings a bag to the women. Offers it to Hannah first because she is the youngest. Because she reminds him of Beth. Because 17 should mean baseball games and popcorn, not war and capture and trauma. Hannah takes a piece, hesitant. The texture is strange, light, airy. She bites. The crunch is loud. Salt crystals burst on her tongue. Butter coats her mouth. The taste is simple, pure, good. She smiles. First real smile Sullivan has seen from her. The kind that reaches her eyes. That makes her look 17 instead of 70. Between innings, the Americans play music. Take me out to the ball game. Everyone stands, everyone sings. The Japanese women do not know the words, but they stand too. Out of respect, out of curiosity, out of the strange feeling that they are being included in something. In ritual, in culture, in Americanness that has nothing to do with war. Tanaka translates the lyrics. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. The words make no sense and all the sense in the world. A song about not wanting to leave. About being happy exactly where you are. About peanuts and prizes and not caring about anything except this moment. This game. This joy. Keiko starts humming the tune, quietly at first, then louder. The other women join. Not the words, just the melody. The rise and fall of notes that mean something even without language. An American soldier hits a home run. The ball sails over the outfield fence. Everyone cheers. Americans, Japanese, together. For 3 seconds, nationality does not matter. Baseball matters. The perfect swing matters. The ball flying true matters. Hayes hands out Cracker Jack, another American tradition. Caramel-coated popcorn and peanuts in a red and white box. Pies inside, usually worthless, a small toy, a sticker, a temporary tattoo. But the promise of the prize is what matters. The surprise, the possibility. Sachiko opens her box, finds a tiny plastic whistle. Blue. Cheap. Probably cost 1 cent to manufacture. She puts it to her lips. Blows. A sharp note cuts across the baseball field. She laughs. Actual laughter. The kind that bubbles up unexpected. The kind that remembers how to be happy. Day 7. English classes begin. Tanaka teaches using American songs. Sullivan brings his guitar. Learned in Nebraska. Played at church socials and county fairs and Friday nights when the farm work was done, and the only thing left to do was make music. He plays Home on the Range, the unofficial anthem of the American West. Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word and the skies are not cloudy all day. The women attempt the words, stumbling over English pronunciation. Buffalo, antelope, discouraging, words that have no Japanese equivalent, concepts that belong to wide open spaces in frontier mythology, in a version of America that exists more in song than in reality, but is real anyway because belief makes it real. Sachiko asks what an antelope is. Sullivan draws a picture, explains the American West, cowboys and cattle drives, and his grandfather's ranch in the Sandhills. Stories of a country these women will probably never see. Of prairies and mountains and deserts different from this Texas heat. Of space. Of freedom. Of the mythology that built a nation. The women listen, learn, not just English words, American stories. The narrative that Americans tell themselves about who they are. about wide open spaces and second chances and the idea that you can leave your past behind and become someone new. Day 10. The heat breaks slightly, only 100 degrees, practically autumn by Texas standards. Sullivan brings something special from the commissary. Rationed, precious, distributed carefully among soldiers who have earned small luxuries. Coca-Cola, 6 glass bottles, condensation beating on the outside, cold from the icebox. He carries them carefully, sets them on a table outside the barracks, pulls a bottle opener from his pocket. The cap comes off with a pop and a hiss, carbonation escaping. Bubbles rising. The sound of America in a bottle. The same sound in Georgia and California and New York and everywhere in between. The sound that means refreshment. That means a pause in the day. That means something good. He hands the first bottle to Keiko. She holds it carefully, watches the bubbles rise through the brown liquid, lifts it to her nose. The smell is sweet, sharp, caramel and vanilla, and something else. Something uniquely Coca-Cola. Something that has been marketed as happiness since 1886. She drinks. The carbonation hits her tongue first, fizzing, popping, tiny explosions. Then the sweetness, sugar and syrup and flavors she cannot identify, cold spreading down her throat, cutting through the desert heat, making her feel for just a moment like this is not imprisonment, like this is hospitality, like she is a guest, not a captive. It tastes like happiness in a bottle, she says in halting English. Sullivan has been teaching her. 3 weeks of lessons. She is bright, quick, determined to understand the language of her captors who are becoming something else, something more complicated than captors. Sullivan smiles. That is what Coca-Cola says. The pause that refreshes. Good marketing, but also true. Sometimes happiness does come in a bottle. Small moments, small mercies. The luxury of cold soda on a hot day. The other women try it. Some love it. Some find it too sweet, too strange, but all recognize it as a gift, as an offering, as evidence that these Americans see them as more than prisoners, as people who might enjoy cold drinks on hot days, as humans worthy of small kindnesses. Day 14, Sunday. Hayes arranges something special. His wife Helen sent a care package from Ohio. Dried apples, cinnamon, a handwritten recipe card for her famous apple pie. The kind she makes for church potlucks and county fairs and Sunday dinners when the family gathers. Sullivan's wife Mary sent dried apples too from Nebraska, and a tin of the cornbread mix she bakes with. The kind from the general store in Grand Island. The kind that tastes like home. The mess hall bakes the pies. 2 of them. Golden crust, cinnamon sugar sprinkled on top. The smell fills the barracks, fills the compound, reaches across Fort Bliss like an invitation, like a promise, like America distilled into baked goods. Hayes brings the pies himself, still warm, carries them carefully on a wooden tray. Sullivan follows with plates and forks. Tanaka brings coffee, black, strong, the way Americans drink it. In America, Hayes says through Tanaka, apple pie is more than dessert. It is a symbol. We have a saying, as American as apple pie. It means authenticity. It means home. It means the best parts of who we are. Freedom and family and the sweetness that comes after hard work. He cuts the pie, serves each woman a slice. The apples are soft, cooked until tender. The cinnamon is warm. The crust is flaky. Butter and flour and salt. And the kind of care that only comes from someone who learned to bake from their mother, who learned from their mother, who learned from their mother, all the way back to when America was just an idea. Sachiko takes a bite. The taste is overwhelming, not because it is complicated, because it is simple, because it is kindness in food form, because she is being served dessert by an enemy colonel who has 3 daughters and believes that every woman deserves to be treated like his daughters deserve to be treated. She cries, not from pain, not from fear, from being seen, from being fed, from apple pie on a Sunday in Texas, and the impossible reality that the enemy is teaching her about their culture through baseball and Coca-Cola and dessert. Some of the watching American soldiers understand this is what we fought for, not conquest, not domination, but the ability to share apple pie with former enemies. The luxury of teaching our culture instead of destroying theirs. The possibility that war can end in something other than more hate. Quick question for everyone watching. If you or your father served in World War II and witnessed moments like these where enemies became something more complicated, share your story in the comments. These small moments of humanity mattered then. They matter now. They will matter for your grandchildren. History is not just battles, it is also apple pie. September arrives, the Japanese prisoners prepare to return to Japan, to testify at the Tokyo trials, to return to a defeated nation, to face an uncertain future. The goodbyes are harder than anyone expected. Sullivan gives Keiko his wife's cornbread recipe, handwritten, ingredients measured in cups and teaspoons, instructions in Mary's neat script. For when you want to remember American kindness, he says. Hayes gives Hannah his daughter Beth's address, the house on Maple Street in Columbus, Ohio. Write to her. She is your age. Pen pals across the ocean. That is how we prevent the next war. Not with treaties, with letters, with girls talking to girls about normal things, about baseball and school and boys and everything that matters when you are 17 and the war is finally over. Tanaka gives Sachiko a book, California Landscapes, photographs of Yosemite and Big Sur and the Golden Gate Bridge, for when you are ready to see America as a visitor, not a prisoner. The women give back. Sachiko presents Sullivan with a sketch she drew, him holding his camera, photographing evidence, documenting truth, titled in careful English, The Doctor Who Documented Truth. Keiko folds an origami crane, traditional Japanese. 1,000 cranes bring peace, she explains. This is number 1. She gives it to Hayes, for your daughters. Hana gives Tanaka a drawing, a radio schematic, her specialty, the thing she was before she was a prisoner, before she was a victim, before she was a survivor. Evidence of who she was and might be again. The buses arrive, military transport, heading to the airfield, then to ships, then to Japan, then to trials, then to whatever comes after trials in a defeated nation. Hayes speaks last words through Tanaka. When you return to Japan, if anyone asks what Americans are like, tell them the truth. All of it. The good and the bad, the Morrison and the Sullivan, the cruelty and the justice. Complete truth is the only way forward. We will remember Sachiko promises, all of it. The buses pull away. American flags snap in the September wind. Texas desert stretches endless. The women watch through windows until Fort Bliss disappears behind them, until the barracks and the baseball field and the parade ground where they identified their attackers fade into memory. They will remember. All of it. 1946. Sullivan returns to Grand Island, Nebraska. Delivers baby Robert Jr. in November. His son. Born while Sullivan was at Fort Bliss, documenting war crimes and serving apple pie and teaching home on the range to Japanese prisoners. He becomes a small-town doctor, delivers babies, treats farmers, sets broken bones, prescribes antibiotics, lives a quiet life in a quiet town where nothing happens except seasons changing and crops growing and babies being born. But he keeps the red notebook, locked in his desk drawer, the photographs, the testimonies, the documentation. Sometimes at night he takes them out, looks at them, remembers that for a few weeks in 1912 he did something that mattered. That documentation became justice. That truth became historical record. He never knows, never learns, never discovers that his documentation will matter more than he imagined. That 43 years later it will be displayed in the Smithsonian. That it will force a government to acknowledge crimes. That it will change how the world understands comfort women. He dies in 1976, age 61. Age, heart attack while making rounds. A good man, a Nebraska farm boy who believed in documentation and truth and doing what is right even when it costs you. His wife Mary donates the red notebook to the Smithsonian in 1978. Bob always said truth matters, that someday this documentation would matter. He was right. Hayes rises through the ranks. Brigadier General by 1948. Advocates for military justice reform. His Fort Bliss decisions become case studies at West Point. How to balance command authority with moral duty. How to prosecute your own soldiers. How to make justice apply equally regardless of nationality. His daughters remember him as the man who made hard decisions and never regretted them, who taught them that being American means holding yourself to higher standards, who showed them that principles cost something and they are not principles unless they do. He dies in 1982, age 69. Decorated career, honored veteran, father of 3 accomplished women who all became advocates in their own ways. Sarah, a teacher, Martha, a nurse. Beth, who never played professional baseball, but coached girls softball for 30 years and taught them that being female does not mean being less. Keiko becomes a professor at Tokyo University. American History Department teaches the Fort Bliss case every semester. Students are shocked. Americans prosecuting Americans for crimes against the Japanese prisoners during war. When emotions were highest, when revenge would have been easy. Yes, she tells them. That is what American values mean when practiced, not just preached. Equal justice, documentation, accountability. America failed in many ways. Japanese internment camps, racism. But at Fort Bliss for a few weeks they got it right. Sachiko joins the comfort women survivor movement in the 1980s when women finally began speaking publicly. For 40 years she was silent, ashamed, believing that what happened to her was somehow her fault. But Sullivan's photographs exist. American military documentation exists. Official records exist that make denial impossible. When Japan claims comfort stations never existed, survivors produce American evidence. Medical records. Testimony. Sullivan's red notebook proving that an American doctor documented everything in 1945. October 1988, Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian Museum. A new exhibit opens. Comfort women voices finally heard. The hall is marble, climate-controlled, professional, modern. Everything Fort Bliss was not. Everything that 1945 Texas heat and dust and desperation was not. But the photographs are the same. Sullivan's photographs, blown up 10 feet tall, black and white, clinical yet somehow reverent, documenting scars with the care of someone who understood that these marks mattered, that these women mattered, that truth mattered. Sachiko enters the exhibit at age 74, gray hair, elegant. Her grandson beside her, 18, third generation, born into a Japan that has prosperity and peace and the luxury of examining its past. She stops in front of a photograph of herself, age 31, Fort Bliss, Texas, 1945. Her back exposed, 17 whip marks visible, each one documented, labeled, dated where possible. The placard reads, First Comfort Woman Testimony documented by American Forces. Captain Robert Sullivan, U.S. Army Medical Corps. August 1945, Fort Bliss, Texas. Kizu wa kienai. Scars never disappear, but their meaning can change. In 1945, these marks meant shame. In 1988, they mean evidence, education, proof, historical record that cannot be denied or dismissed. She gives a speech, museum crowd listening, students, survivors, activists, historians, American veterans. That bacon in Texas tasted like dignity, she tells them. For 8 years, Japanese officers gave me nothing but pain. American officers gave me breakfast and protection and a camera that recorded truth. The man who hurt me was punished by American law. The men who helped me became friends across enemy lines. Both truths matter. Keiko arrives, age 67, professor, professional clothes, success written in her posture. They embrace, first time since 1946. 42 years of letters but no meetings. No visits. Life got busy. Continents stayed far apart. But now here in front of Sullivan's photographs, they reunite. I teach this every semester, Keiko says. Students are shocked that Americans prosecuted Americans, that justice crossed enemy lines, that documentation mattered more than nationality. That is what we must teach. Sachiko agrees. Complete truth. Not just Japanese crimes, not just American crimes, both. The Morrison and the Sullivan, the cruelty and the justice, the complexity. A young woman approaches, nervous, early 20s, Southern accent, Alabama maybe. She carries a folder. Official looking. Academic. Excuse me, are you Sachiko Nakamura? Yes, my name is Sarah Morrison. My grandfather was Jack Morrison. The silence is immediate, total. Museum sounds fade. The marble hall might as well be empty. Time might as well stop. Sarah continues quickly, nervously. I spent 5 years researching what he did. Court-martial records, Sullivan's documentation, your testimony. I needed to know the truth. He never told the family. Changed his name after discharge. Married my grandmother. Worked construction. Died in 1985. I found his discharge papers. Dishonorable. Started investigating. She opens the folder. Shows copies. Sullivan's photographs. Hayes's court-martial papers. The red notebook pages. All of it. Official. Documented, undeniable. I came to apologize. To acknowledge, to say what he never did. She bows, deeply. Japanese style, learned specifically for this moment. Researched, practiced, performed with sincerity. Gomen nasai. Honto ni gomen nasai. I am sorry. I am truly sorry. Sachiko stares. This is Morrison's granddaughter, the granddaughter of the man who represents everything wrong with victory without restraint, with power without accountability, with uniform without honor, but also the granddaughter who spent 5 years researching crimes, who came here to acknowledge them, who learned Japanese apology customs, who was trying to do what her grandfather never did. You are not your grandfather's sins. Sachiko takes Sarah's hands, speaks in English. Learned over 40 years of teaching and advocacy and building bridges. His crimes end with him. Your acknowledgement begins healing. That is what Sullivan wanted, what Hayes fought for. Justice does not end with punishment. It continues with memory, with education, with the next generation doing better. Keiko joins them. Your grandfather tried to silence us. You are giving us microphone. That is redemption. Sarah's dissertation proposal comes out. American Military Justice and Enemy POWs. The Fort Bliss Cases, 1945. PhD program. University of Alabama. Full circle. The school whose ring left marks on Keiko's throat now producing scholarship about those marks, about the justice that followed, about the complexity of right and wrong in wartime. 3 women stand together in the Smithsonian. Sachiko, Keiko, Sarah, victim, survivor, scholar. 3 generations, 2 nations, 1 truth. The museum director speaks. This exhibit will travel. Tokyo, Seoul, Manila, cities touched by comfort women history. It will become a book, taught in schools, all because Captain Robert Sullivan picked up a camera in August 1945 and decided to document everything. All because Colonel William Hayes put humanity before nationality. All because some Americans chose justice over easy loyalty. Their choices created this legacy. Your survival honored it. Thank you. Final display case, Sullivan's red notebook. Opened to August 16, 1945. His handwriting visible through protective glass. Examined 23 Japanese women POWs today. Fed them bacon first. Hospitality before business. Discovered both enemy crimes and American crimes. Documented everything. War is over, but justice is just beginning. This matters. It mattered then, matters now, will matter when Sarah's dissertation becomes required reading, when her students become teachers, when those teachers teach the next generation, when the cycle of remembering replaces the cycle of forgetting. Documentation became justice. Justice became history. History became healing. In 91, Japan officially acknowledges comfort women. 46 years late. Thousands of survivors dead. But acknowledgement comes. Partial, controversial, insufficient, but real. Sullivan's documentation is cited as key evidence. American military records that make denial impossible. Photographs that prove what happened. Testimony recorded when memories were fresh and witnesses were alive. In 93, an official apology. Still insufficient, still controversial, but the door has opened. The silence has broken, the shame has started shifting from victims to perpetrators where it belongs. In 95, Hannah visits the Hayes family, Columbus, Ohio, the house on Maple Street, the oak tree in the front yard now massive shading the porch where Helen Hayes used to drink coffee and wait for letters. Hayes is gone, dead 13 years. But his daughters welcome Hannah, show her the origami crane from Keiko, still preserved, still cherished. Proof that enemies became pen pals. That wars can end in something other than more hate. Beth, the youngest daughter, is now 63, coached softball for 3 decades, taught thousands of girls, some of them Asian American, some of them Japanese, all of them learning that being female means being strong, that your body is yours, that you matter. This is what Dad fought for, Beth tells Hana. Not just defeating Japan, building a world where women are safe, where prisoners are protected, where justice applies equally. You helped him do that. No, Hana says quietly. He helped us. We were the prisoners. He was the protector. We were the powerless. He had the power. And he used it right. Sometimes Sachiko writes in her memoir, published in 1998, the smallest acts of kindness matter more than the grandest victories. Bacon taught us more about America than battles did. Captain Sullivan, Colonel Hayes, Sergeant Tanaka. They were brave enough to choose justice over loyalty. We expected death. America gave us bacon. We expected torture. America gave us justice. We expected silence. And America gave us voice. Some will say this is propaganda. It is not. It is one true story among millions. Bad Americans existed. Morrison proved that. Good Americans existed. Sullivan and Hayes proved that. Both truths matter. Complete truth is the only way forward. Marks meant for shame became evidence. Evidence became justice. Justice became history. History became hope. This is the story of 23 Japanese women and the American officers who saw them as human. This is the story of bacon and baseball and apple pie and the belief that principles are not principles unless they cost you something. This is the story of marks that changed history, and it is true. Every word,